So should you build a custom fly rod? Consider that question for a minute. Maybe you thought about it, maybe you haven't. Maybe you're afraid to. Nonetheless, it's something that you really should consider. For me, there's nothing better than catching a fish on a body of water with a fly rod you built on a fly that you tied. And not to mention, winters are long in Maine. You gotta have some sort of hobby, something to tie you over to keep you busy. You know, it's good to get outside and snowshoe, ice fish, do all that stuff, ski, whatever it is that you can come up with for a winter sport. But you know, like today, it's snowing out. Be a good chance to sit down and build a fly rod. It gives you a chance to learn something new, stimulate some creativity. You know, you learn something new, then you can teach someone else something new. And you potentially can save some money if you build your own fly rod. It allows you to have a rod that's a one-off, it's customizable. There's a satisfaction that's hard to replicate any other way than doing something yourself and then looking at the end result that's in front of you. So let's talk about learning something new. So you want to build a fly rod. You know, if you can tie your shoes, you can build a fly rod. I have one in front of me right here that I built. This is a Sage XP. I talked about this in one of my other videos, which I'll put a link in the description below of that video. You're not going to find another rod anywhere like it. It's got much higher quality components than any Sage rod that I can find in the store. It's got Fuji guides, folding hook keeper, nickel silver hardware on the reel seat with an African hardwood insert, premium cork handle, nickel silver winding check, folding hook keeper, customize the color of the thread wraps myself. You know, can even do an inlaid turn, make it a little fancier. You know, I'm not gonna find anything like this. And this, you know, every time I cast it, every time I'm fishing, every time I catch a fish, you're kind of reminded of that hey, I built this, and it's very satisfying. And then, you know, you learn how to do it, you can teach someone else how to do it. It's a very good hobby to pass on to a kid. It passes the Maine winters fantastically. You know, you can build one in a long weekend if you really want to set your mind to it. Can you save money? Well, yes and no. That's kind of a loaded question. You can buy kits, you know, and build a rod that you'll, I guess, save money on. Your time's worth something though. Your time has value and it's going to take a little time to do it. But really where the magic happens is, let's say like this, you buy a nice high-end fly rod. Let's say if you want to build a rod that's, say, $600 in the store and the blank costs $300. So that's half of the price of that rod right there. And let's say you have $300 of wiggle room. I mean, you can put some superb components on for $300 and then have the same price rod to the one that's in the store, but a much finer rod. And yeah, no one else is going to have it. So, and then as I mentioned, customizability. Another good reason why you should consider building your own fly rod. Sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. Any design you want on it, any thread design on it. Any color threads you want, you can mix and match stuff. It's just whatever you can come up with, whatever you can create. You built the fly rod, you break it, you can fix it. I mean, short of snapping the blank in two, which is gonna make the action basically worthless at that point. You break a tip, flatten a guide, do something to the reel seat, the cork handle, you can fix it. Yeah, a lot of times you can fix it, let's say if you're on a trip and you flatten a guide or you break a tip or the tip top comes off the rod. You're not going to be out of rod. I keep a little rod repair kit with me when I'm fishing, and if anything happens, I can fix it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes if I have to. Probably not going to be aesthetically pleasing, it's going to get me through the trip though. And I'm not going to go without fishing. So yeah, you know, you build your own rod, kind of learn the ins and outs, and if you break it, you can fix it. And then as I mentioned, satisfaction. There's just an incredible satisfaction that comes with building something yourself. You know, as I mentioned, there's nothing that feels better than catching a fish on a rod that you built and then on a fly that you tied. It's a really good feeling. You know, for that reason alone, when you finally finish your first rod and you sit down and look at it, and it brings about a satisfaction that's hard to meet anywhere else. And it's like that with anything that you build or make. You know, if you're remodeling a place, or if you're a painter, or you do some woodworking, whatever it is that you make with your own hands, when you finish it and you look at the job well done, it's a very satisfying feeling. And for me anyway, whenever I do something like this, I like to learn a lot of new things, and I like to do things with my hands. And it always feels good. Lacey, my wife, will kind of laugh at me when I finish a project, whether it's woodworking or tying a fly or whatever. I can literally sit down for like 30 minutes and just kind of sit there and stare at it and just kind of admire it. And you know, it's good to take that time to kind of put your mind in a different zone. And for me, it's an outlet. Doing stuff like this is an outlet from everyday life. It requires a whole different amount of brain activity, and it can kind of get you back in line, help you stay balanced with life. And so it's never too late to pick up a new hobby and to learn something new. And it gives you confidence to move on to other things. Maybe some people don't feel they are talented enough to build a fly rod. Believe me, it is not that hard. So let's come full circle to that first question. Should you build a custom fly rod? I mean, heck yes, build it, Lord. It's a fantastic hobby. At the very least, you're gonna learn something new, but more likely you're gonna have something at the end of the day that's very satisfying, that's gonna really give you a lot of years of pleasure. And every time you pick it up, you'll think of, you know, especially your first rod, you'll pick it up and it'll remind you of that whole process of building it, of your energy, your effort, and you know, this was the end result. So definitely, if you've ever considered it, or even if you haven't, consider it. Build a custom fly rod. You'll never be disappointed. So anyway, it won't be long and we'll be outside using this. So spring can't come fast enough. So until next time, get outside. It's good for the soul. See ya.